Napoli go top of the table, 1 point above Inter. Milan also playing tomorrow, so they could equal out with Napoli. Juventus sits 7th, though, just outside European spots. Disappointing result for them today. But let's talk about Napoli, especially Rasmus Højlund getting the brace. It was made quite easy for him to get those 2 goals, wasn't it, today?
Yeah, 2 real poachers' goals, both inside the 6-yard box. In the middle of the goal where all good strikers should be. He probably will find that they're the 2 easiest goals he'll score this season. Great play from Neres down the right-hand side. Puts in a delicious ball. He did that 5 or 6 times today. And then when you look at the last one, again, we speak about it, but McKennie's got to do better. I also think as well, if you're being ultra-critical, the reason that I love watching strikers is when that happens, anything could happen, the striker's always on the move. The defender's Kelly in the middle, like looking around like, maybe this will happen. Every striker is always thinking, this could be my chance. And as it falls to Højlund, it's a great header. And unfortunately, the keeper couldn't keep it out. But it's good for Højlund.
Lloyd Kelly on both goals gets caught ball watching. Ball watching is like when I'm marking Marco, and all of a sudden the ball goes there, and all of a sudden now I'm just watching the football. And as I'm watching the football, I'm losing track of who I'm. Both goals, he just going to the football and losing track of Højlund. We said this before the game. Højlund's the only guy in the field from both teams that's actually just on the pitch thinking, I got to score today, I got to score today, I got to score. He went to bed last night thinking, I'm going to score tomorrow, I'm going to score tomorrow. Juventus didn't have that guy. The center forwards like Troy, right? They're wired to, all they want to do is score goals, right? That's the number one thing. Like, they can play terrible, but as long as they score goals. So, yeah, I'm not nuts. I'm not in the Højlund bandwagon. But he scored 2 goals because last night he went to bed thinking, I'm a striker, I'm going to score these 2 goals. He scored them inside the 6-yard box. So credit to him for sure. But it's crazy that Juventus doesn't have that guy.
I sort of agree. I think that if you watch his entire game, you watch the lack of hold-up play, you watch some of the balls that have gone out, it wasn't great, but at the end of the day, he scored 2 goals, and that's what he's paid to do, and a lot of the guys around him helped him. Troy and I were talking during the break, and he says, you know, what's the real takeaway here? Because Napoli is better in every category than Juventus. The big takeaway for me is that this is the Napoli of last season. And those were the doubts I had at the start of the year, where they were conceding too many goals, where they were not as concentrated. It looked like their stomach was full. Oh, we don't need to win again. Too many of those moments. Conte came out and put harsh words. Ever since then, ever since that international break, it has been a Napoli that, number one, he changed the formation. Number two, his players are with him. And even without players, the right players, the approach is the right approach. So the fact that this is the Napoli of old means we're going to have a really good Scudetto race. I was worried for a little bit, but I could calmly say now, after a good sample size, they're back. It's them.
And Højlund got a lot of help today from Neres. He's contributed in 6 goals in his last 7 Serie A matches. So it wasn't just today. He's been one of those players that have stepped up, especially throughout all of these Napoli injuries.
I don't care what anyone says. This is the MVP. Okay, Højlund, great. You got the two goals. This is Neres, for me, he was the most valuable player on the pitch tonight for Napoli. Creates everything. I mean, he must have been salivating at the mouth to look at who he had to go up against on the left-hand side. He probably couldn't believe it. The fact that he's now, we had the numbers last week when he scored, he had 3 goals in his last 3 games or whatever it was. He only had 2 all of last season, and that goal came after 11 months. So the fact that he's getting the most out of him, I was critical as well on Conte, saying he needs to trust Neres more because he was always resorting to, you know, the old school style. Yeah. These sorts of wingers, you got to let them play. You got to give them space.
Yeah, he was fantastic on the day for sure. I think, you know, this is neither here nor there, but I will say when Conte felt like he was losing the team, like when Marco says he was worried about this team and what they were about, Kevin De Bruyne comes in from Manchester City, one of the world's greatest players. He's won everything in the game. Unbelievable footballer. He came into the team, and they had to take McTominay and had to push him into the left midfield position, right? And he would come inside and add more numbers in the box, right? But it started to become a team that wanted to play football and wanted to, you know, the grit and the grind was becoming second. And then De Bruyne gets subbed out, and Conte and him have a little thing, and it has to come out in the public, and they're all saying, him getting injured was a little bit of a blessing in disguise for this team, because now you've got 11 guys that are 100% bought in. You got 11 guys that I'm not sure, but I don't think any of them have won the Champions League. I don't think any of them have won or accomplished what Kevin De Bruyne. So you got 11 guys that give 120% from start to finish of the games. And they have refound that sort of nastiness and that organization and that grit and that grind. And every single game that they've won, you got to see the way they celebrate after. They are back on track as a team, and some would say even better than last season, especially when they get their guys back.
Some may say it was a sad attack because out of all the other games they played the rest of the season, this ranked as their worst XG, worst chances created, only created 4 chances. They're tied worst for shots on target, only had 2 of those, and they're tied worst for touches in the final third, only 102. So, boys, what's more worrying for this Juventus side? Is it going forward or defensively?
I'll say this: a few years ago, when we had the privilege, obviously, of covering this league, Juventus was under Allegri was the manager at Juventus, and us included, all of Juventus, most of the Juventus fans were like, it can't get worse than this. This is terrible under Allegri. You couldn't watch them play. They couldn't connect passes. They didn't attack. Didn't look good, and we were like, this is the end of the line. They need to change. And since then they did that. They spent all this money. They went to go get Thiago Motta, this big new project, right? Juventus was going to play great football again and get results. They were going to compete in Europe, right? And they've only gone backwards from there, which is actually crazy because of the money that they spent and the direction they went to and all the enthusiasm that was put into this project. They actually are backwards from when Allegri had them, was it 3 years ago now, 2 years ago now, when we all were like, it couldn't get worse than this. It's gotten worse because I'll tell you one thing. If Allegri was at the helm of this team today, with these players, even though these players, for me, are not Juventus caliber, a lot of them, this team would have competed today. This team would have fought today. This team would have had more touches in the attacking third. This team would have pressed. This team would have been more organized. This team would have had a better chance. It would have gave you more satisfaction. I'm not saying Allegri with this team would have won today, but Allegri with this team would have at least given you some satisfaction in terms of, hey, we're here, we're going to compete. This team didn't compete today. This team didn't do anything. This was the worst performance of the season for them, so hopefully they can get it right moving forward. But they've somehow managed to get worse after significant investment.
You know what's scary? I'm looking at the Serie A table, and I'm looking at Juventus in 7th place. And disaster if Juventus don't get into the Champions League spot. And I'm looking at Como ahead of them, Bologna ahead of them, Roma ahead of them, and we don't know if Italy's going to get 5 spots or 4 spots. How are Juventus going to get into Champions League? Like, if Juventus don't get into Champions League football, the rest of the competition in Italy is getting significantly better. Now, not to judge based on one performance, you lost to the champions of Italy. Okay, I can understand that. But it's where's the margin of growth? Are they better than Bologna? Can they knock out those spots? I'm not sure what a defeat like this is going to do to their morale in the team. That new manager bounce is out the window. That we barely felt it. Barely felt it, but it's completely gone at this point. I really don't know. I'm sitting here clueless as to where they go forward with this project.
And that for me is the biggest point. Jen, in production, can you just give me that graphic again, the worst? This is why it's the attacking for me. So when you see this graphic, obviously it's worse, it's worse, it's worse. The new manager bouts when he came in on the 1st of November. The best they have done is 1.96 in XG, and 6 shots in a game is the best that they have done. So when you look at the worst, under Spalletti, since Spalletti has came in. So when you look at it now, so from you looking at worst, 0.24, 2 shots today, the only way they get better is by having 4 more shots. You can show people and, oh, this person did this, but as a team, no one covers for each other. No one looks after my mate. And every time I was in a game, it was always do 1.5 jobs. I want to do my job and help you with half of yours. Everyone here is doing half a job.
Yeah. And 7 minutes into the game, by the way, of one of the biggest games of your season. You win this, you're back in the Scudetto conversation. You could make a lot of wrongs right. 7 minutes into the game. Talk about attention to detail. Talk about real players, real champions. It was poor. I hate to keep on going in a circle, but it was really poor performance.
You want to hear something scary? To end out 2025, Bologna, Roma, Pisa, and then Paphos in the Champions League, which, by the way, we looked it up. Paphos has the same amount of points as Juventus in the Champions League.